Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist FirstinWeather here. It is January 2nd, 2019. Happy New Year to everyone, and definitely a warm start to the year for many of you guys. And in fact, many areas went into the upper 60s and upper 50s in the eastern coast. Definitely well above average temperatures, and that trend looks to continue for at least the next few days before we get a cooler shot of air next Wednesday. But anyways, that long-awaited pattern change still hasn't come yet. That big talk about a very cold and snowy January and February and even March for the eastern coast. That pattern still has not come yet, but it eventually will. It's still looking like it eventually will, but there has been quite a delay, so to speak, and I'll show you guys what I mean in just a few seconds. So this is the FV3 GFS model, and this is the 12Z January 2nd run. And let me just take you through the upper air, the 500 millibar upper air chart. And so this is 12Z Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. You can see that we have a disturbance right here. This is providing snow in Arizona, and also helping and feeding that system right here. And we can see that we have ridging right here in the eastern United States. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Just had to sneeze a little bit. And we can see that we have ridging right here in the eastern portion of the country, and this is allowing for those temperatures to stay pretty mild, nothing really too bad. And we can see that we don't really have any direct source of cold air from Canada, with no lines coming all the way down. This is more of a split flow, or not a split flow, but you can see how the jet stream goes like this and then also goes like that. So it's disjointed. The two branches of the jet stream are completely disjointed, and not really a good pattern for cold air. Now as we take this through time, now this is Saturday, we can see we have an upper level disturbance right here. This will be bringing some rain to the eastern United States. Nothing really too big to talk about. No snow associated with the system, especially for the mid-Atlantic region. Just some plain old rain. Rainfall totals could be pretty noticeable with this one. Some areas could see up to an inch of rain, and maybe even a little bit more in isolated areas. And if we look at the rest of the country, we see that we have a ridge in the central portion of the United States. This is providing that mild air coming in from the south, and in the west we have a little bit of troughing, but that's about it. Now let's go through to Monday, January 7th. Big ridging on the eastern coast. Temperatures will be pretty well above average. If we look at the anomaly charts, we can see that temperatures for 12Z or 18Z Monday, January 7th are well above average in these areas right here. If we look at actual temperatures, forecasted temperatures from the FV3, we can see that highs will reach the upper 50s in the southern mid-Atlantic, with the Midwest seeing highs in the low 50s. So definitely well above average temperatures for the eastern portion, for the eastern United States on Monday, January 7th. Now as we go back to the upper air, and we notice this ridging right here, and we go through time, we see that we have a little trough coming through. This is Wednesday, so like I said, that a little burst of cold air coming through, but look right behind it, and then a big ridge coming right on the heels of this little burst of cold air. But I do want to show you the anomaly charts for this burst of cold air. And you can see that, oh, look at that, nothing. So this model is showing relatively nothing, but then look right here, that little trough that comes through, some cold air, some below average temperatures. And I think this is actually incorrect. I do think that troughing that you see in this upper area right here, this will bring slightly below average temperatures for the region. I think the FV3 is not showing this correctly. We will be seeing below average temperatures for Wednesday in these areas right here. Now as we go further in time, we see that big ridge take place and take hold of the eastern portion of the country, with a big trough in the western portion of the country, and then ridging right here. So warm air is being pumped in, cold air right here, or below average temperatures right there. And this is January 11th. So now we're 1/3 into January, and we're still seeing this warm, wet, mild pattern in the eastern portion of the country, and still not really favorable for snow or winter weather in the east. Then as we go through time, that ridge still holds. Finally, we see some cold air coming in from Canada. You can see that right here. Those lines coming directly from Canada. So some cold air at least, but nothing really too substantial. And then finally, we really established that cold air flow. Ridge in the west, trough in the east. That nice dominant cold air flow coming in. And look how tight these isobars are. Which shows that this will be some pretty substantial cold air. And then that goes through, and this, my friends, is what we've been waiting for. This is the polar vortex being dislodged. And let me go to the North America view so you can see this more clearly. You can see that this is the polar vortex being dislodged because it comes like this, it's right here, and then it goes all the way down. So it's a weakened polar vortex, and this is what you really want for winter weather. Hopefully this can come further down, like right around here. But if you look at the temperature anomalies, this is some very cold stuff, especially in those areas. Look at this. This is ridiculous. Look at all these cold temperatures right here, and that will be coming south a little bit. So I think around, if this verifies that what the model is showing right here is correct, we're going to see a big blast of Arctic cold temperatures for the last part of January 20th to 25th-ish. In that time frame, that's when the cold air will come. And that if this does verify, if this is what the model is saying becomes exactly true, then we would be seeing all these headlines in the news about cold air, record Arctic temperatures coming in from the United States. Well, this is just one model, so that means that this is not necessarily true. And keep in mind, this is at the very end of the model run, so that's when things get very unreliable. But now let's look at the European. Let's look at the upper dynamics for the European. This only goes out 10 days, so keep in mind that this is not the exact same time frame. Let me go to the United States view real quick. There we go. And so let's go all the way back. So again, this is January 2nd. We have that ridge. Then that mild wet pattern continues. This is January 9th, Wednesday. That little trough comes through, so a little bit of a break, but still all that warm air out west that comes through. And then finally we have a little bit of a trough in the east, like that, but that's nothing substantial. This is January 12th, so it doesn't really go that far out. However, if we look at the weeklies, or the ensemble of the EPS, or this is the European ensemble, we can see that this is also showing pretty much the same thing for January 12th. That ridge in the west, or central portion of the country, and trough in the east, with some average temperatures for the mid-Atlantic. So the main consensus to take from these two weather models, the GFS and the European, is that things will stay primarily mild and wet for the eastern portion of the country as we go through January, probably even into mid-January. And I wouldn't be surprised if this mild pattern lasts maybe even till January 20th before we really start to see things change into a colder and snowier pattern. I know this is a delay. It was originally thought that we would see this changeover right around the first week of January, but that has been delayed. And for you snow lovers out there, this definitely isn't good news. However, it does look like after January 20th, we're going to see that pattern change. We're going to see that cold and snowy environment get more favorable for the eastern portion of the country. So now let's look at the teleconnections and see what's going on, what's causing this. So this is the North Atlantic Oscillation, and you can see that right now it's sharply negative. That's good if you want snow in the east. And then as it goes, it's going to go positive in the next week or so, then stay basically positive. But then right around January 16th, it's going to go negative, or not negative, but go neutral and head back down into the negative zone. Now let's look at the Arctic oscillations. Right now it is positive, and then after that it's in a nosedive as we go to the middle of January. And if we look at the 10-day or 14-day forecast, you can see how much it nosedives and goes sharply negative as we go to the middle of January. And now the P&A That's also positive, so that's good if you want a cold and snowy pattern in the east. And it's looking like it's going to dip a little bit, and then it's going to stay pretty much positive into the middle of January. So you might be asking if the AO, if the NAO and also PNA is favorable right now for a cold and snowy pattern in the east. Why are we not seeing this cold and snowy pattern? Well, we have many other factors. For example, the MJO. The MJO right now is not in a favorable pattern. It's in I think it's in phase 6 right now, and that analog show that when the MJO is in phase 6, you do not see good temperatures or favorable temperatures and a favorable pattern for cold and snow in the east. Also, we have many other analogs like the EPO. Unfortunately, I could not find the teleconnection for that due to the government shutdown. I went on NOAA's website and it said that it could not be shown due to some factor. I'm pretty sure that's the government shutdown since NOAA is government run. But one thing I want to show you is, or I want to focus on, is the AO. And so if you notice, it's neutral now, and it's going to go sharply negative as we go through the middle of January. So I think with all the other things being or not all other things, but the NAO and PDO being, or not PDO, PNA being slightly favorable, I think this AO turning sharply negative will be the turning tide and allowing that pattern change in the eastern portion of the country. Especially with that AO going sharply negative, that polar vortex is really going to come down, bringing in that Arctic air for large portions of the country. And this is hinted with the FV3 model, with that polar vortex coming down. You can see it's right here. That's the polar vortex for you. And that is shown around January 18th, and that's when the AO is going to be extremely negative. And so I feel like that will be the turning tide in allowing this pattern change. So in conclusion, snow lovers, I know it's been a little bit of a disappointment to start the new year to see this big delay in that pattern shift, but I can tell you that after January 18th, things really might change. We might see that final tide with the pattern change, with things turning favorable for snow and cold in the east. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.